You can't change the way you are wired much, but you can change a lot of what you do with that wiring. Someone once said the chains of habit are too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be broken. And I see that all the time. I see people with habit patterns that are self-destructive when they're 50 or 60, and they really can't change them. They're imprisoned by that. It's the habits that you generate now on those qualities, or those negative qualities. I mean, the person who always, claims credit for things they didn't do, that always cuts corners, that you can't count on. I mean, in the end, those are habit patterns.
I don't think people have any business thinking of themselves as elite. They may have been born with the potential for more IQ, or for that matter, able to kick a football further or dance better than somebody else. But and they no doubt work to perfect their skills and all of that. But it really gets back to every human has equal value. When I was born in 1930, the odds were probably 40-1 against me being born in the United States. I did win the ovarian lottery on that first day. I grew up in a middle-class family, basically. My dad lost his job in 1931, a year after I was born. I lost all his savings, and only the fact that his father had a grocery store kept eating it. Nevertheless, my father went on to have another child a year or two later. I mean, he was an optimist. We all grew up knowing that we had unconditional love from my dad. That doesn't mean he thought we could get away with everything. He basically would just essentially say, I know you can do better than that. You knew if he was disappointed with you, and that would have a big effect with all three of us, actually, but including me. Well, I never saw him do anything that you couldn't put on the front page of the paper. He was probably the best teacher without attempting to be a teacher. He encouraged me to go to college when I didn't want to go to college. But in terms of whether I was, it asked his preference, he never would have said it to me, but he probably would have liked me to be a preacher or something of the sort. We just had to do our best. He never attempted in any way to steer me into any kind of activity. He believed very much in having an inner scorecard and never worry about what other people are thinking about you. I've really never been much for beating myself up over mistakes or anything of the sort. There's nothing you can do about it. The only thing you can change is the future. And I'm in a business where I'm going to make plenty of mistakes. And that just comes with the territory. If it's a choice between looking to the past and looking to the future, believe me, look to the future. I went into business very early. I was smart, but I wasn't that smart. I was good at what I ended up doing, but I got a nickel a week allowance, and a nickel a week wasn't enough to satisfy my wants, and I wasn't going to make more than a nickel a week unless I started selling Coca-Cola door to door. I sold gum door to door. That was pretty standard. I like to read more than most kids, and I really like to read a lot. My eyesight was bad. I didn't know that for a while, but it never slowed me down.
Nothing wrong with getting the highest grades in the class, but that isn't going to be the quality that sets apart a big winner from the rest of the pack.
I've been lucky in life that I've never had a hero that's let me down. That would be a terrible experience to really have your belief in somebody that you sort of worshipped shattered, and it's never happened to me. I have these friends that they do 10 things for me, and they're thinking about doing the 11th rather than whether they're going to get one in return for me. I had a fellow named Lorimer Davidson at Geico in a January day in 1951. He changed my life. He had no expectation he was going to get a thing from me, but I came there on a Saturday and banged on the door. A janitor finally let me in, and he was the only one in the office, this Lorimer Davidson. And he spent 4 hours with me giving me an education that literally did change my life. Well, when I got out of business school at Columbia, I had a hero there named Ben Graham. He never asked anything of me. I mean, he just basically gave. I mean, he taught for 25 years or so at Columbia, and he was creating future competitors. Somebody said he was planting trees that other people would sit under. You're very, very fortunate in life when you run into people like that. When I got out of school, I said, could I go to work for you for nothing? I was sort of hoping that if he said yes, he would then decide to pay me. I kept pestering him for a while, and a few years later, they hired me.
There are a couple questions I always get asked. I always People always say, well, who should I go to work for? The real thing to do is to get going in for some institution or individual that you admire. I mean, it's crazy to take in between jobs just because they look good on your resume or because you get a little higher starting pay.
I think that I'm lucky enough in life, I know I'm lucky enough in life, to be able to associate pretty much with whom I want to in business or socially or wherever. I've had a number of heroes in life, and associating with them has done wonders for me. They've all done wonders for me. And basically not expected anything in return.
It gets down to a bunch of qualities that, interestingly enough, are self-made. It's integrity, it's honesty, it's generosity, it's being willing to do more than your share.
I think the ideal thing is to focus with people that are better than you are, because you will move in the direction of the people you associate with. It can't be done mathematically if everybody tries to do it, but your behavior will move in the direction of the people you associate with. And so why not associate with the best? I would not have had the same fun in life if I'd been indiscriminate in terms of who I associate with over time. I think it was about 1992, that shortly after I met Bill Gates, I was out at with his parents. Bill's dad asked each of us, and there were probably 20 or so, to write down on a piece of paper one word that would best describe what had helped us the most. And Bill and I, without any collaboration at all, each wrote the word focus. Spending 3 or 4 hours a day hitting a golf ball, or some pianist has been spending 5 hours a day practicing. I mean, focus is just... down on something. You know, that's why Tiger Woods hit 10,000 putts too. In my case, and I think probably the case of most people that are reasonably good at what they do, that they enjoy. I mean, you wouldn't be able to do it if it was work. It's a natural. It is not. I say to myself, I'm going to focus on this or do anything of the sort. It's just a natural behavior, and it's been that way ever since I was a kid. I can't tell you the color of the walls in my bedroom or my living room, or the color of the carpet in my living room. I don't see things like that. One time when I worked at home, I worked in this little sewing room sort of off the bedroom, and at one point my wife put in this wallpaper with this bright red and had dollar bills on it or something. She found it someplace. And a couple of years later, I said to her, that new wallpaper is terrific. She said, it's been there a couple of years. It's just not something that really grabs me. And on the other hand, I'll remember a number, sometimes a long, long time. That makes me easy to live with in some ways. I mean, sort of get away with anything around me. And Bill Gates would be the same way. I've got a lot of friends that they get so darn interested in what they're working on. They don't see other things. We don't keep score, and as to who's done the most work or anything of the sort. If you know why you're doing what you're doing, that's good enough.